Henry Briggs, Open Source Software, Presentation to the Board of Education, Diffusion and Integration of Technology in Education. Dr. David Thornburg, Instructor, Walden University. The utilization of the computer and web technology has given rise to many innovations in the world community, including education. Open source software is one of these innovations. The business community have used the advantage of open source software to benefit their institutions. The educational communities are beginning to see the benefits of adopting open source software. An innovation for teaching and learning with the use of technology. One of the organizations that offer open source software is the Thornburg Center, 25 years of pragmatic visionaries. And this was the organization in which I was first introduced to open source software. Connecting the world with open source software. In open source software, the codes to modify and adapt the software are available to all users. This is one of the concerns of proprietary software developers. Proprietary software developers are able to charge for any changes or modifications in distribution of the software. Open source code is free to be modified and distributed to others. Richard Stallman, a man with an open vision, envisioned free software used by all in whatever way they chose, as long as they would share the software with others, free of charge. Richard Stallman had the idea of open source software with the source code free for all to use. A quote that accompanied Richard Stallman's software stated, "Share this code with your fellow users, learn from it, improve upon it, and when you are done, please give something back to the community." Linus Torvalds, author of the kernel operating system, wrote the system as a free open source code that used the GNU license written by Stallman's Foundation and used open source software. The community adopted open source because of the monetary saving. The education community is beginning to adapt open source because of the saving that can be applied to other school departments. Open source software continues to diffuse into the educational communities. The strategies that will be the most persuasive would be to point out the saving and the compatibility of the open source product that can be used for instructional strategies. Instructors will be able to expose the student to a plethora of software applications free of or minimal charge. The laggards would be the traditionalist groups who are inherently afraid of change. Attributes are unrestricted distribution, source code distribution, modifications, author source code integrity, no personal discrimination, no restriction on application license distribution, license must not be product specific, no restriction on other software, technology neutrality. Stage 1, need. Tools are used for individuals with minimum or no cost, beneficial to individuals and nations with financial difficulties. The keys to the open source software are free to all. The source code can be used by anyone wanting to change or adopt the application for their personal use and can be distributed to others free of charge. Stage 2 is research. With the collaboration of programs from around the world and the use of these applications by the programmers that wrote them, the software is safer than proprietary software, which costs. Some of the free open source collaborative tools are Access Grid, audio and video collaboration, Citadel, collaboration suite, OpenGroupware.org, software server for multiple clients, OpenOffice.org, compatible with Microsoft Office, Spicebird, personal information manager, Audacity, audio recorder and editor, Synfig, animation builder, CMap, concept mapping tool, Moodle, open source management system, and a plethora of other free open source applications that are used for teaching and learning. Open source software is used throughout society. Open source software is used by many in the educational community, from primary to post-secondary educational users. The web is ubiquitous, and open source software will keep you in a network with transparency and openness. Educational institutes will be able to devote monetary resources saved with the use of open source software to other projects. Stage 3, the development of open source software. Software first began as bundled software when IBM was selling their hardware, the computers. Software became closed when developers realized the money that could be made by selling the software separate from the hardware. In the 1980s, Stillman founded the first open source software. His intention was to write an open source complete operating system. The operating system wasn't completed, but Linux wrote his kernel in 1991, and the Linux kernel was used by Stallman to run his applications as open source. Stillman created the GNU public license software. Under this license, the software is free to be modified and distributed, but must remain under the original license. By 2001, there were 18 million registered Linux users. By 2005, there were 29 million registered Linux users. Commercialization of open source software. The commercialism and marketing of the open source software is simple because there's minimum, if any, charge for the various software downloads, modification, or use. In the education community, through sharing information on various educational tools, the increase of the software use has become more widespread. The diffusion of the Linux operating system, free open source software, is shown here as in 1991 when Linux was first written. By 2001, there were 18 million licensed users, and by 2005, there were 29 million licensed users. The Linux open source software continues to diffuse in society. Benefits of public collaboration behind each project, created by tens of thousands of programs all collaborating to create and improve upon a flawless website framework. Others can modify the open source software to suit their individual, personal, group, or school needs. More benefits are the source code is open to all. Individuals can detect and change or delete the attacker program, which proprietary software has hidden codes, and spyware may be hidden in the code without the knowledge of users and may require a fee by the proprietary vendor to rid the system of the spyware. Still, more benefits can be used on older hardware, thereby is beneficial to all, and especially to lower income individuals and others in third world countries who get donations of older computers who can take advantage of these open source software resources. Savings monetarily lets one invest in other educational endeavors. It allows teachers to expose students to a wide range of software products, addresses security issues because its source code is open and available to the user, and if any backdoors or spyware is written into the program, the users will be able to detect and correct the problem. Open source can be utilized by many learners around the world. Its use is expected to continue to expand. Here we have the Huey Wigman of Papua New Guinea using laptop computers, and they are also able to use open source software. Conclusion: there are many organizations in the business and educational communities that have adopted open source software into their organization and computing systems. The monetary savings and the collaborative nature of open source are appropriate for these current tough financial times and the growing use of the internet to produce, manage, and share knowledge across natural barriers and time constraints in a wide variety of communities. The openness and transparency of open source has made the move towards open source appealing. Open source is easy to access, with many organizations such as the Thornburg Center making open source software available to all. While the use of open source software is available to all, individuals and organizations must apply with the license that accompany the software. My recommendation is that our school system join the use of open source for academic and financial reasons.